to the York Festival of Ideas, which is a hugely packed schedule, so I will be turfing you out at 2:30 in order to make room for the next lot. My name's Jane Grenville. I used to work here and I don't anymore. Actually, my notes say my name is Jane Grenville from the University of York, and I thought, well, I'd better be a bit more specific than that. But it is a huge pleasure to welcome you all here today, all you doggy people, including people that I only know by the names of your dogs. Okay, on with the show. Verity and I have just met and, of course, have got on like a house on fire because we both speak fluent dog. She's a multi-award winning dog groomer at championship level. She comes from Yorkshire. She's got her own dog grooming business, which set up in 2010, so it's quite long running now. Yeah. And that's won several business industry awards, including the Pet Industry Federation's Grooming Salon of the Year.
Yes.
So, and a side hustle in home renovation, never happier than when knocking down a wall or preparing a surface for painting.
It's true.
And when not brandishing a paint roller, she can be found spoiling her 4 poodles, who are Alice, Olive, Floyd and Gigi. Or her cat, secretly snuggling her cat, which she tells me is a fierce cat and therefore takes no nonsense from the dogs, who is called Pebbles. And today Verity is going to introduce us to everything we need to know about a joyful friendship with our dogs, and it's all based on this, which she will be telling us about. Over to you, Verity. I should say also, she said she doesn't mind if you stick your hand up while she's talking and ask questions rather than wait till the end, which means we may not get to the end because I will have to put things up.
Which of the 4 poodles is this that we're in?
Oh, this is Lily.
I will introduce Lily, yes. Yeah.
On we go.
Okay, so first of all, the Robin to my Batman is Lily. She's 13 and a half. You've probably seen her tottering around. She's a great age. If anyone's stroking you, notice she's got a bit of a fatty lump here. Don't worry, it's completely benign. Hide your sandwiches. She is a PIG, I'm afraid. She has one thing on her mind, and it's cuddles and food. Well, so she's lovely, Lily. She's a miniature poodle. I've got 4 poodles at home, and I show poodles at championship level as well. And I've done everything from obedience work to handling and pretty much most things in between. I'm also a reiki practitioner. And I think more people than ever got a dog recently during the pandemic. And I really think there's a focus on health and well-being as well. And there's so much we can learn from dogs and how rewarding this lifestyle with them can actually be, with some incremental changes perhaps. So who here has a dog? Hands up. Pretty much everybody. Anybody not got a dog but thinking about getting a dog? Okay, great. Now, I'm going to do like a really quick whistle-stop tour through the book for you. So we'll touch on a few of the chapters and go into some detail. Obviously, there's a lot more detail in the book. Now, why dogs, though? I've always had such a huge affinity with animals. All throughout my life, my granddad was a gun dog trainer. So I saw how dogs just gave themselves selflessly for just a pat on the head and a good meal at night. And they are super intelligent creatures. We know this more than ever. Well, most of the time. I mean, they do let themselves down now and again, don't they? But generally, they're super intelligent. And we also know that they're sentient beings, so they share much the same emotions as we do. So they can dwell on past events and they can be worried about the future. And so we know now, obviously, how clever and beautiful they are. So choosing a dog, for those of you who haven't got a dog, thinking about getting a second dog, this is really important. When I think about my life with Lily, we've been through so many lives together, it feels like, from being single, then meeting a boyfriend, and then getting married, and then having children. I mean, it's really important that we equip our dogs to go through all these stages of our life together because, obviously, life's so evolving. And this is a really important thing. Lily, she's just gone for a wander outside. She can't go anywhere, can she?
No, I'll go and
It looks like it's hemmed in. She's left the bit. I think it looks like it stops here.
Hey, Poppet, come on. In you come.
Here she comes. Come on in. Do you know, I'll keep her occupied with this while we're doing it. Lily, look. Here. There we are. There we go. That'll keep her busy for a bit, won't it? So, obviously, I was saying that she's been through so many lives with me together, from that single life where we like nothing more on a Sunday afternoon than sitting in a pub garden to having her ear tugged by a 1-year-old. So it's really important that we equip our dogs to be able to manage all these transitions through our lives. And I would think that probably 50% of this nation choose a dog on looks alone and nothing else. They simply think, I like the look of that dog. And, so we'll go for that, rather than looking at their lifestyle and other things. So things you need to consider, obviously, is how you live your life, what your hobbies are, your work. I mean, work changes as well. We worked from home, and then we saw, obviously, this influx of dogs going into our rescue centres, didn't we, when people returned to work and they didn't know because they hadn't put those contingency things into place about what they're going to do when they return to the work environment. Do you have small pets? We were talking about your animals, if you've got cats or rabbits, there's certain breeds that, not always, but it's probably wise to avoid. And obviously your dog experience as well, because a lot of dogs are a lot easier than other dogs. And you know that as well. You were saying about having trickier dogs. I've had trickier dogs as well. So I started out with Dobermans. So I used to show Dobermans. I had a couple of Dobermans. I actually rescued a Doberman, and he was extremely hard work. So I've sort of been through the waves of all the different breeds. And these guys they're very intelligent dogs. They need a lot of mental stimulation. The looks might be deceiving. She looks like she's a frou-frou dog. She's actually climbed Helvellyn 12 times. So, she's a proper dog, believe it or not. Not so much anymore. She goes in a rucksack. So you need to think about your lifestyles and everything like that. And I think before anybody is actually thinking about taking on a dog, I would urge everybody, even if it's an absolute no in your mind, to go to a rescue centre, because you never know, there might be a dog in a rescue centre that might just be the absolute perfect fit for you and the perfect fit for your lifestyle. Sometimes you think rescue dogs, you're taking on a daunting challenge, but not necessarily. Some of them are rehomes. Some of them, have just, unfortunately, due to circumstances, have ended up there. And I just would urge everybody to do that, because you never know, you might find that perfect partner. You're on your 5th rescue?
I am.
Yep. So, getting organised. Life's stressful. We all live super, super fast-paced, busy lives, don't we? And I think that there was a study done recently on dog ownership, and it was saying that, we always think the dogs are beneficial to our health and everything, but actually the study showed that maybe not so much. And I think it's actually due to the stress that you see a lot of unwanted behaviours, and maybe your house isn't equipped. So it can be stressful when you've got to get to school in the morning, your bin's being turned upside down, your cushion's being de-stuffed, and you've not got time to walk your dog. So I always think it's really important to put these steps into place about getting your house and your home life organised. So obviously, one thing I would say, that you have a family meeting. Whether you've got a dog now and you've not actually set any boundaries in place, or whether you're thinking about getting a dog, have a family meeting and put these things in place. So, are the dogs going to be allowed on the sofa? Is feeding at the table allowed? At the end of the day, there's no right or wrong. It's your house. You can do whatever you want with your dog and in there. If you want your dog to sleep on your bed, that's absolutely fine. But you just all need to be singing from the same hymn sheet, because what's so disturbing for dogs, I suppose, is when they're allowed upstairs one minute and then they're getting shouted at for it the next. So it's just making sure that you're all on the same wavelength, and then the dog's got its clear boundaries, and they know, what they can and what they can't do. Obviously, we talk about the evolution of dogs. So it was only maybe 30 years ago that dogs were living in a kennel outside in the garden. They only had the perimeter of the chain around their neck, to roam, or they were living in our utility rooms, and they seem to have done an SAS roll into our kitchen, and now they're sharing those Egyptian cotton sheets, aren't they? And there's never any going back really from that, is there? I mean, once they've tasted the high life and all that, isn't it? So hands up, whose dog sleeps downstairs still? Mine do, actually. Yeah. Who's in the bedroom? And who's not actually on the bed? Who's under the covers? Yeah, sharing a pillow.
I'm probably telling a little bit of a fib here. She sleeps downstairs at night.
Yeah.
She comes up in the day.
Yeah.
She seems to...
She'll know, because that's your
respect those
routine.
boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I've got 2 young kids and 4 dogs, I generally don't let my dogs upstairs, just because you can imagine that's a lot of feet up and down those stairs, and we've had too many decapitated Barbies and lots of tears, so no, there's just some things that I can't teach my dogs not to do, and that is beheading Barbies. So they just stay downstairs, and then everybody's happy.
Very tempting.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we've discussed about how unsettling it is, and we've discussed how their mind, how they think. And dogs do like a routine because it gives them certainty. It means that they're not worrying about their next meal because they know they're going to get fed. You don't have to have a strict routine. It's not like beep, 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 alarm goes 7 o'clock, oh my God. But it's just, roughly giving them a rough routine so they know, really gives them a lot of certainty and helps them alleviate a lot of stresses in their lives because, dogs do stress just like us. Now then. Communication, understanding dog. This is a really big thing. I can't see these slides.
I can't see either of them, can we?
No. So I'll tell you about my gang. I mentioned, obviously, I've got 4 poodles now, and they obviously have breed traits within each breed. So yeah, they'll probably tiptoe around a puddle, all of them, and they all know that they look damn fine when they've had a haircut, and they're like this. But they're all so different. Dogs, I've worked with dogs all my adult life, and no 2 dogs are the same. They're as individual with their personalities as humans are. So Lily, obviously, she lives for food. I call her the house slug because she's busy when she's out and about, and then she slugs around the house.
I've got one of them.
I've got a dog who's Olive, who's absolutely obsessed with the ball. So much so that I have to just limit her ball time because she, it gets in her brain too much, and she's just, she'd probably run until her little legs fell off after a ball. So. Oh, really? Yeah. I have a dog walker as well, and who helps me out a few days a week, and I have to say to them, a couple of throws, that's it. But even if she knows it's in my pocket, she's just mither.
Yeah,
so
she spots a ball before we spot it.
That's it. Yeah.
She'll find a ball.
The ball missed descent. Well, I actually quite like that when they find a ball. I'm like, yes, winner.
She knows the points of the
Because we go through so
where
many.
She'll always find a ball.
Yeah, really.
Years often, constantly. And the look on her face when she finds it.
Yeah, joy. Yeah. I love that though, recycling. I'm all about that.
Very happy
Yeah.
when she finds one.
I've got a 3.5 kilogram toy poodle as well. She's a champion. She's Crufts champion, and she's a bag of fun. You've never known. I don't even know how she stands still for a haircut because she's like a hot coals. She's just full of energy. And Floydie boy, who is just a big goofball. He's just lovely, but a typical lad, thinks with his parts, So they all have breed traits, but obviously within this, we know how different dogs are. Like my 4 dogs are just so different. And we think about beagles, obviously incredibly independent-minded. Very hard to teach a beagle recall because they get that nose down to the ground and, pick up a scent and they're off. Also, we've got terriers. We know that, I've put Westies up here, but terriers very tenacious. Not always, but not the easiest dogs. If you've got small rabbits running around your garden in the hutch, it's going to, delight your terrier no end, I'm sure. Sight hounds, very difficult again with them off lead. If they see something small and furry running, they're instinctually bred to run after that and get it. So these are all things. Oh, Labradors, of course, they love water. But these are all...
Food.
Oh, and food. Do you think that's been bred into them, though? Because obviously I know there's the Labrador issue, isn't there, where they're eternally, not full.
It can be a problem. Thank you.
But yeah, they obviously have these traits in them, don't they? So it's just about understanding this when we're getting a dog as well, so that we're equipping ourselves to get the most perfect dog for us. Because, if you like hill walking, scrambling, get a collie. Don't get a French bulldog. If you're... or a pug, exactly, yeah. Or if you're, if you're a sofa sloth, and you're going to walk your dog every day, but, don't get a collie, get a bulldog or something. There is a dog out there, or get an older dog from a rescue, because there's so many old dogs sat in our rescues, which is very, very sad, breaks my heart. So there is always a dog out there for everybody. It's just looking at your lifestyle and your family and how your life might evolve, and then making sure that, because at the end of the day, when we're taking on a dog, you're making a pact with yourself that that dog should be with you forever. Hell or high water, no matter what happens, my dogs will always be with me. So yeah, I think that's really important to think about. Does anybody, who put the hand up, who's got a dog? What breed have you got?
So we've got a Labrador.
Water? Food?
Food, she's a working dog, she's an assistance dog.
Oh, lovely.
So she was trained on the basis of food.
Of course.
As always. She likes paddling, she's not so keen on swimming, but she likes paddling.
Yeah. What about...
a Cotton de Tulia.
Oh, fluffy.
Rescue dog. I hastened to her.
Great.
She was born in the Leeds Trust, and I went online to see what her trays were.
Yeah.
But she's an absolutely fabulous little dog.
Yeah, they are great little dogs.
You know them, obviously. Not many people do.
No.
Thank you. But she's got a wonderful nature. Just a few little things that I'm not happy about, but basically she's great with the grandchildren. They like swimming, but grooming them is a difficulty.
Well, they've got a difficult coat. It's almost like a mix between a Bichon and a Maltese.
Yes.
They've kind of got that straight but curly coarse coat, haven't
That's
they?
right. And she doesn't like being groomed, but I've found a really good groomer who is terribly patient with her.
Oh, that's what you need,
but
though.
She's fabulous.
I always say if you're working with dogs, you need the patience of a saint because, it's really important. I'll talk about our energy and how important that is later on, but yeah, it's super important. So, body language basics. Obviously, this is just the real basics, and body language is actually, with our dogs, is really quite intricate and quite complicated, and it's something that you can really deep dive into. But it's really important that we start to learn, not just from our own dogs, but dogs when you're out and about in the park. Start reading dogs' body language, because it can help you, you'll know as a walker as well, preempt any potential issues that might arise as well, and also how you watch a pack of dogs interacting as well. So I just really, really urge anybody who's considering getting a dog or has a dog already just to start watching their dogs and learning the different types of body language. You can see here we've got quite a relaxed dog, the golden retriever there. In the play stance in the middle, beautiful. Obviously that's dogs inciting play. And then we have obviously different types of aggression. So we've got on the defense and on the offense as well. In the middle at the bottom, we've got an alert dog just out on the watch, not quite sure what the next stage of that behaviour is going to be, what the next communication is going to be. And then obviously on the bottom left is a nervous dog. As I say, there's so many variants of this though, and obviously it's also personality dependent as well, because along with this they all have their own individual personalities as well, don't they? So there's going to be variants of these. Sometimes you might think a dog's very friendly and it's slightly wagging its tail, but it might not necessarily be the case. So it's just really something to deep dive into, have a look. I do cover a lot of it in the book as well, so it's just worth really studying that. I do obviously like to mention a couple of stories where there's a lady who walks a similar walk I like to do on a morning, who's got a collie, who's really not aware of her collie's traits and how it likes to stalk. So obviously this dog's traits, it instinctively goes down on the grass and then it starts staring. This dog isn't a working dog, it just knows how to do that. Obviously it's predisposed to do that through its breeding. And obviously I've got 4 little fluffy dogs and it likes to round my dogs up, which makes my dogs feel very, very nervous. And I say to this lady nearly every month, because she'll have a ball on a rope for it to distract it, which is great, but she doesn't really bother. So she just lets this collie come right up to us, start stalking and like running up and stopping and laying down, and my dogs are like, oh, mummy, oh God, like this. So if that woman understood her dog's behaviour, she understood how her dog is obviously it's natural behaviour, but how obviously my dogs are reacting with that. I had a similar incident only a month ago with 2 ladies who had 2 lurchers off lead, and they started chasing one of my poodles, Olive. Now, my poodle was doing that run, where they took the bum right under, and it's like that terrified run, and she was screaming and running. And I was trying to call her, but she was just, when they're gone, she was gone. She wouldn't come back to me because she was just in fight or flight. They have this fight or flight mechanism. She was in full-blown flight, so she was off. She wasn't going to listen to anything. She'd run into a road or anything. So I was trying to shout these ladies to call back their dogs, and they said, it's fine, they're only playing, like this at me. And I was just...
That's not...
and it's just times like that when I wish people would understand the traits of their dogs and the personalities of their dogs, and then we can obviously intercept these problems before they even arise, which is, really important. Obviously, for humans, we think about our communication with dogs. What do dogs hear from us? Mostly gobbledygook. They might pick up on the odd keyword that they've learnt along the way, but otherwise it's da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. They just must think, gosh, they never be quiet, do they? But they'll listen to our tone of our voice, the pitch of our voice. They'll also listen to our body language, how we carry ourselves. They'll pick up on our energy. Also smells. Like a top trick I learnt when I was handling my dogs is that I was feeling nervous for a big show. I put a mint in my mouth. because the dogs, it would mask the smell of nerves, obviously, on your breath, because that would just travel straight down to your dogs. They can pick up on all these. And actually, next time you're feeling a little bit stressed, notice how you ever so slightly flare your nostrils. It's really interesting. So when you're slightly nervous, slightly stressed, you're having a really hectic morning, notice how you'll slightly flare your nostrils. Dogs are so in tune, because they can't listen to the yada, 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 so in tune with reading other canines' behaviour, but also our behaviour. They're always trying to figure us out, these strange creatures that are human beings, that they'll be able to pick up on these stress cues, these micro movements that we do, which they'll be able to pick up on, which is quite astonishing, really, isn't it? And another thing I always think is a really good tip, obviously, we know how energy and all these things affect, we all have our bad days, it happens, is to fake a smile. Because if you just sit there, you'll feel like an absolute loony. Put a smile on your face, it tricks your brain into producing dopamine, which then actually makes you feel better. It's incredible how it can turn around a day. And because obviously, if my husband's having a really bad day, he comes stomping around the kitchen. And you're like, ugh. It's amazing how you can pick up on that and how it can actually affect your day as well. Well, it's exactly the same for our animals as well, because they're huge feeders on these sorts of things, on our energy, body language, etc. Now we go on to behaviour and training. Obviously, you've probably heard people throw around the coin positive training a lot. I like to use positive training for training all my dogs. Now, hands up, who here thinks that a dog can be completely broken, like unfixable? Well, that's really positive, because my talk I did last week, there was a few. You having a thing?
The collie that I've got at the moment, I very nearly gave up. And Alison, who knows him as well as I do, will agree that he is now the sweetest personality in the world. But yeah, even before he went deaf
he's
and blind.
He's immobile.
even before he went deaf and blind, his nature sort of evened out. But I was at a point where I was thinking, I've had a lot of dogs in my life, but I cannot do this one.
But you did.
And he was about a week off me giving up.
Yeah.
And then he turned around. So I would say, and it was all the stuff that you're talking about, like really going for the retired sheepdog, and he was very bad at it, but he would see little white dogs and think,
I love that.
And quite aggressive. I mean, quite aggressive. It was a real problem.
Yeah.
So no, I don't, but I think you have to be it's patience, but it's also confidence. You really need to be confident that you can do it.
And if you feel like it's overwhelming, or you don't have the experience within your own skill set, then the IMDT is the most amazing organisation to go to. That's the Institute of Modern Dog Trainers. And so when you think about, there's training and there's behaviourists. So you've got to think about the behaviourist is like a psychologist for a dog who would deal with separation anxiety, aggression, the more serious issues like that. And then obviously a trainer deals with, obedience, general obedience work and everything. So things like that you would get, you're very experienced, you've managed to crack it yourself, but if you're unsure or anyone's struggling, definitely enlist the help of a behaviourist. Sooner rather than later as well, because obviously you can instill behaviours in the dog as well. You could potentially be doing something that you don't even realise you're doing that's exasperating it or making it worse. So they're really good. Anyway, you go on the website and then you can put in obviously where you live, and they'll tell you the accredited people who actually have the qualifications through the IMDT, who only ever train with these methods. Positive reinforcement, all the time, positive training, nothing else. That's really important. We think about it like old dogs, new tricks as well.
Could I just ask a question about that? You were saying you were in a month of giving up your colleague. What would you have done if you'd given up? Because
it's unhomeable,
I would have said he was unhomeable, and I would have euthanized him.
See, I've got a friend, not me. I've got a friend who adopted 2 dogs from the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus that have been stray dogs on the street in refuges, and they're now about 6, I say, and she cannot leave them alone in the house because they destroy the house. They're so anxious about separation. She's tried all sorts, behaviourists, all sorts, and they just know better. So she resigns to the fact that she can't go out basically now. unless she puts the dog into kennels.
Yeah, that's
Her social life is restricted. She says, I can't give it to somebody else. I can't impose
No.
that on somebody else.
No.
And to have them put down, I'm just not prepared to do that. It's just so hard if you get to that situation.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend she
Yeah.
has a look at the IMDT though, because there is behaviourist and behaviourist, and a lot of dog trainers call themselves behaviourists, but they don't have actually it's very hard to become a canine behaviourist. It's
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of studying and qualifications involved. So I wouldn't give up just because she's had one behaviourist who's not managed to suss it out. Yeah. Like everything, everyone's got a different opinion, especially with dogs, so it's worth just trying somebody else. You never know. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, my rescue Dobie was like that. So even to go to the supermarket, I'd have to put him in my mum. I'd have to drive him to my mum's house to leave him with my mum, just to do like a simple shop. So that was a lot of work. Yeah, and he did get better, but he was never. What we need to learn about our dogs, we talk about implementing all these socialisation period when they're young and everything, and it is a lot of it's nature versus nurture. Obviously, we know they have these personalities and these traits, you know, but obviously these early experiences are also really, really important, and it's a lot easier to put the hard work into your dog when they're younger than it is to rewind and try and undo learnt behaviours like that. I think that I always say when you're getting a puppy, like I throw my everything into that dog. And you know what? In a year or two's time, my future self is thanking me for it, because I have got an easy breezy, you know, hopefully normally confident dog, you know, that I can take anywhere. You know, she's been on the train down to Cheltenham. She's been, you know, here. I was nearly late, by the way. My train hit a cow. Only in North Yorkshire, right? Awful. So I had to taxi here. I know. So, but she'll, you know, she's been in a taxi. You know, I'm not worried about that, which is just, you know, makes my life so much easier that I know that she can just be here with all of you, and I know that she'll be absolutely fine. Yeah. So it's never too late to start training your dog, though. I think it's really important. So even though Lily can't necessarily go on up Helvellyn anymore, I know it's sad. I still like to exercise her mind, because exercising their mind is just as important as exercising their legs. They can actually tire a lot quicker from exercising their minds as they can just exercising their legs. So I will constantly be working her, trying to teach her new things. She used to be able to pirouette and do all sorts. I won't make her do that now, because obviously, you know, she's nearly 14. But the other day I taught her how to sneeze. It was super easy. I'll just quickly show you because it's ever so cute. Lily, sneeze. Sneeze. Yes. Good girl. I mean, that's wild, isn't it? Why not?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Please? This business about training dogs, it's a huge industry.
Yes.
You're going to Pets at Home, they've got all these things set up where you can put biscuits and the dog has to roll over and chuck it in the air or whatever. Do you think, though, any of them are worth paying money for, or can you do it simply by, you know, making hand gestures?
I have always just done it at home. Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah.
You don't go in for all these expensive
No.
training
I just do everything.
things.
You'll see even the toys. Typical Yorkshire lass. I make them myself.
Yeah.
There's everything. Yeah, you can
Right.
do.
Yeah.
You can do on your own. This is an old pair of jeans and an old T-shirt, and I just literally 2 minutes, and this has been
Socks with holes in.
socks with holes in. Yeah, absolutely. You can put a tennis ball in them as well and tie a knot in, and then you've got, you know, some sort of throwing device. I even made this. This is a snuffle mat. Obviously, they cost quite a lot of money, so it's just a cardboard box. And then I weaved in, these are all baby blankets, so my babies are grown up now. So I thought, well, what better use, turn it into a dog toy, as every good dog mother does. And I just weaved it in here, and then it cost me absolutely nothing. It's completely recyclable. You know, so you don't have to go in for the really expensive. Plastic bottles are another great thing.
Plastic bottle.
Yeah. I even do hide and seek with, you know, like tubs, like any tubs I've got, so I'll hide treats and sit in front of them.
That's what my mum and dad got told to do. So they got a rescue who was like 2.5, and they taught them when she came home from her walk to have hidden treats around the house.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
she used to run around the house, and it kind of got her to trust them a lot more because she was getting bits of treats. But yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah. It's a really good one. I talk about like different ways of feeding, like more natural ways of feeding in a little bit, but that's a really good tip. I think that there's so many things that just don't take any time. So I'll have these on my side at home all the time, or I'll have like little bits of chopped up cheese in my fridge. So I've always quickly got them on hand, because obviously with having 4 dogs as well, when my doorbell goes, well, yeah, they all start. You know, no, my dogs aren't perfect, by the way. You know, or if they see a squirrel in the garden, it's like the rage. You know, so and you know I have to let open the door, just go on, just see it off. So. Yeah, it's a really good idea to have treats at hand and have all these different ways of trying to exercise their minds. Obviously, we've talked about positive training, but why is it so important? Obviously, we want to have a relationship with our dog built on trust, mutual respect. And you can only do that through positive training. I'll give you a little example. If you're teaching your dog to heel and the trainer has given you a choke chain, and they've put it on the dog, and they're saying, right, when the dog pulls, you yank it. You know, the dog's not. Pardon?
Can you still get them?
Oh yeah, you can still get them. Yeah. In fact, I was in town with my son. There's a beautiful big Rottie. He had this choke chain. I'm not kidding you. It was like for tying up a gate. It was like a proper thick chain around this dog. Yeah. I do see it's normally these bigger, stronger dogs that you see on them, but totally unnecessary. Like, I've had Dobermans and I'm not a big girl. You don't need choke chains on them. So they'll check them. This is what they'll tell you to do. But the dog's not learning anything. Now, dogs have a problem-solving brain in them, and yet we live in a society where we treat them like babies and do everything for them, you know, where they're never having to actually think for themselves and use their brains. You know, when you think about their ancestors, the wolf, for instance, they were having to problem-solve all the time. And we can easily tap into this problem-solving part of their brain, and actually it gives them a lot of fulfillment. And obviously it's great for tying them out as well. So that example I gave you of the choke chain, it's not actually teaching the dog anything. Yes, the dog will probably heal quicker than a positive reinforcement method, but they're not actually learning anything from that. They're just looking at their own and thinking, well, that wasn't nice. I don't know why you're doing that, but I won't pull because something not nice happened when I did that. It's a bit like if you're learning to spell at school and you spell something wrong and the teacher comes and hits you over the hand with a ruler. Well, you're probably going to remember how to spell that word because you think, God, I don't want to remember, I don't want to do that again. But you're definitely not going to have respect for your teacher, are you? And you're definitely not going to want to go to school. You're not going to want to learn. And, you also find with these methods of training that they don't stay with you long term either. So positive training, basically we're ignoring the bad behaviour, or the unwanted behaviour, should we say, rather than using the word bad, and rewarding the good behaviour. And we do that through bribery, through food. Or, some dogs aren't necessarily food motivated, so you'd have a training toy. This is the most exciting toy in the whole wide world. Why? Because you interact with your dog with it, and you make that toy super, super fun, and you only use that toy for training time. So she's obviously very food motivated, so I can just use food with her, it is easier than obviously carrying around a toy. But you can think about a dog's got a toddler brain. So their brain is about that of the age of a 3 to 5 year old. So with that in mind, I've got a 5-year-old at home. I know how sassy, clever, independent, that she is. And when I think about my dogs having that same brain capacity, it's quite crazy, because they can't, watch the telly. They can't listen to the radio during the day. They look to us for all their fulfillment in their lives. And I would say that 80% of the unwanted behaviours we see in our dogs, not always, but I would say about 80%, is lack of enrichment, lack of fulfillment, and not enough walks in our dogs. It's amazing the transformation you'll see in your dogs if you change up your walks, just do these things at home with them, just start thinking a little bit more how they think, and understanding now, obviously we know more now than ever, how intelligent these creatures actually are, and how much we actually have to give them in their lives in order to not see these unwanted / destructive behaviours, because a lot of it is obviously through boredom, and then obviously they learn these behaviours. So, has anyone got any questions for me, Yvonne? So this is one thing that I really like to talk about, is walking your dog. It's something that we do every day, and it's something where we can make really small changes to really uplift our dog's life, to sort of level up your walks, really. And just quickly look at this slide, and I just want to ask any of you if you want to have any pointers on how these 2 walks can be improved. So we've got the top one, the guy there.
Well, he could get off his phone.
Yeah, exactly. He's not present at all, is he? He's not, he doesn't know if anything's going to come up to him. He's not watching his dog's body language. He's just, he's laughing at, a cute chick on Tinder or something. I don't know. And then the bottom one. Yeah, I mean, just give it some freedom. Not necessarily, I mean, it might not be able to go off the lead, but yeah, just exactly, get a long line. If you've got a dog that obviously you worry about, or if it's in training, get a long line for the dog. That's, dogs do need their independence. They do need their freedom. It makes them so happy. So these are obviously, we discussed about their 3 and 5 year old brain, and this is why just making these small changes are really, really important. Now I've got loads of tips for you on how you can level up your dog walks, so get ready. So the first one's getting out, they're not all written down here, so getting outdoors, obviously the power of the outdoors, the beauty of nature, getting in there, just looking at the clouds like you've never seen them before, the flowers can really be uplifting. It's so great for our, mental health and our overall wellness as well. Allowing your dog to sniff. I see all too often people rushing the dogs along the road, we've all got to get to work for 9 o'clock and they're doing the quick round the block with their dog, and not allowing their dogs to sniff. Now, sniffing is such an important natural behaviour for our dogs. It gives them optimism. They're getting so many messages from those smells as well. It's really getting the brains working as well. So allowing your dog to sniff is super, super important. And it's actually said to meant to be lower their stress levels as well if they're allowed to do these natural behaviours. Well. Yes, on their brain, exactly, because it gets there.
Breathing, like, when you watch their lungs, they're like...
Yeah, sniffing all in, yeah. I mean, their olfactory system is so complicated and so complex that they said that you can put a teaspoon of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool and they'll be able to detect it. It's insane, isn't it, when you think of that? And so the messaging they're getting from all these things that they're sniffing around. Unplug devices, we saw the chat, be present, so take your AirPods out, just be aware of the world around us, have that time on your walk to... be free from your phone. I love leaving my phone at home. Goodbye, modern world. It's lovely. Obviously, paying attention to our surroundings. I always think, what can I hear? What can I see? What can I smell? That's about being present, and that's such a lovely thing to do. I mean, we live in Great Britain, which is probably, arguably, got one of the most beautiful countrysides, in the world. I personally absolutely adore it anyway. So getting out there is just gorgeous. Changing your speeds of your walk. So when I'm on a walk, I might do some fast walking, some slow walking. That's really good for your heart rate, obviously changing up the tempo, great for heart health. Sit a while. This allows your dog to be independent as well. So I'll just find somewhere nice to sit down and just not calling my dogs back every 2 minutes, because there's nothing more annoying when you're in a field and, there's a lady, Harry, oh my, I feel like, stop. Just leave him be. He's fine. He's not doing anything. Just let them have their space. You just sit down and chill. And that's just so lovely for your dog. Let your dog lead the walk. I don't know if anyone's ever tried this before. Have you? Yeah. So often we're dictating where the walk is and where we're going, but it's so interesting, isn't it?
She's so independent as well. She has certain walks that she loves to do.
Yeah.
Depending on, how long we've got and stuff like that. And if I try...
Oh, you try do the shortcut.
She literally will stand
yeah.
and stare.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting watching which way...
Yeah. And it's so nice because they're following their nose more often than not, and they're leading the walk by their nose, and they're going where they want to go. Gives them a bit of independence, and you're literally following just, to keep a check on them, really, aren't you? So I absolutely love that. Explore, go different places. So often Monday to Friday, I can't say much. So we do have these sort of usual walks we go on to, but at the weekend, I will always try go somewhere new or somewhere I've not been in a month or two. And I think that's so lovely. I try and mix up the trains. So we go around the reservoirs here, woodlands, we'll go on hills, dales, all over. And I think that's really lovely to mix up the terrains, the different smells, all these different environments for our dogs as well. The beach, we went to Northumberland the weekend before last. It was lovely. Highly recommend Alnwick. Yeah, well, actually, I think we went to Alnwick and Almouth. It was perfect for the dogs. Yeah, really lovely. Obviously, got to be a calm leader. This isn't a dictatorship. We're literally there to lead our dogs, to help be that kind guiding hand to show them, what we want to see. But it isn't a dictatorship. So, it's not about bossing the dog. The alpha theory has been completely debunked, by the way. So that doesn't exist. Dogs are well aware that we are human beings. We do not need to be the boss. They're well aware that we're on 2 legs, funny human person, and we're not a dog. So, you know, you don't need to, you know, if any trainers start talking to you about, you know, alpha theory or, you know, any of this, please go find someone else to do your dog training with. Obviously, we talked about learning dogs' body language, the importance of that. When I go for a walk, I use 2 leads as well, because I like to increment some sort of training time. You know, might do a bit of loose lead walking on my walks, but the dog doesn't want to be on that lead all the time. And the dogs are well aware of the different leads. So I'll have a training lead and my bum bag, and then I'll do 10 minutes of training time, that's it. And then back on the normal lead. If they want to pull, whatever, you know, that's their free time to go and enjoy themselves and exercise. And I also like to add in some parkour. So if there's, you know, a sawn off tree stump, a park bench, anything like that, it's just really lovely to start trying to mix up your walks, get them to balance on these things. You know, just, you know, with a tree, it's just incredible what you can actually get your dog to do.
How do you feel about extending leads?
I personally hate flexi leads, but I mean, they're so popular, aren't they? But I mean, from my clients,
we use them.
do you?
Yeah,
But more often than not, do you not find they give you burns? You can't like reel your dog in easily, can you?
you use the grip.
Not the actual.
I keep them on short when I'm on the road, and then if we're off, it's usually if I'm in, you know, I've
then
got a deadline,
yeah.
but I want them to wander around and sniff, particularly because mine are old and they,
Yeah.
you know, they don't hear me when I
I
call
think they
them.
have a purpose for, you know, dogs like
Yeah.
yourself, where you want to keep that safety, obviously, and you want
Yeah.
to give them the freedom. I personally prefer a long line or a longer training
Yeah.
lead because I just think they're really numb things to carry around as well. I can just put my lead around my neck
Yeah.
and I'm hands-free. This is like, what do you do with this great big plastic
And you've
thing?
got 4 of them.
The
I've
amount of
got
time
2
I have
that can
clients
put
as
in
well.
a pocket.
Yes, exactly. The amount of times I've seen clients drop them and then they're like bonk on top of the
Yeah.
dogs as well. Yeah. They're so, that's right. If you ever try to if you need to quickly grab a dog, I've seen some horrific injuries from flexi leads where they go, you know, they'll literally burn through your skin, awful. And also I've actually know 2 people who've lost a dog through a flexi lead where they've not locked on the side of a road.
Yeah.
And they've obviously,
The dog's gone.
the dog's gone into a road.
Yeah, I nearly killed a dog like that. It
Yeah.
was just on Heslington Lane, and she thought
It was locked and it wasn't, yeah.
It went straight
Oh my God.
and
Yeah.
I stopped in time, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
just
They're super popular though, and I get that some people like them, but not for me. I wouldn't really recommend somebody get them, but I do actually own one because when I go to a dog show, normally my dogs are off the lead most of the time, but when I go to a dog show, there's obviously thousands of dogs around, and I need to have, you know, some space and something just to pack away. I just keep one that somebody must have given me in my show bag, but generally I would say no. But each their own, you know. Whatever works for you. And then lastly, I would say obviously about playing games. It's really important to play games with your dogs. So fetch within reason, obviously not to the excess. A bit of fetch, let them swim. Hide and seek, as long as you don't have a dog that's like super nervous, playing hide and seek with the dog is a really great thing to do. Just to reiterate, if you've got a dog with separation anxiety or anything like that, you wouldn't play hide and seek with it. Yeah. Oh, Mum, I don't like this game. And obviously chase as well. There's nothing quite like getting your dog razzed up by, you know, like legging it across a field and they're all like running after you. I'm like the Pied Piper with my poodles. So I just want to discuss a couple of mindful tips. Obviously, we discussed about how important it is that... There's how important it is obviously to increment these little things into our lives, about how important our energy is and how dogs feed off all these different things. There's so many benefits of being a dog guardian. Obviously, we know that they give us a purpose. We've seen that a lot with people who may have lost somebody in their lives as well. They give us exercise. Obviously, they're great for the health. Hopefully, they won't be too stressful. And that unconditional love, which is just beautiful. They give us that emotional support as well that we need sometimes as well. And also if you're lonely or if you're at home and you're quite isolated, they really do get you out there interacting with people, which is super lovely. I think it's very important as well. I've got quite a few ladies who still come to me with their with their dogs. For grooming, I groom still 1 or 2 days a week, and they'll tot around and they'll be there for a good hour having a chat while I trim the dogs, you know. It's lovely because that's them out for the day, and, you know, they'll get stopped probably on the way home with the dog looking cute. But there's so many things that we can do at home. Just reading out loud, like, happy dog, happy you. Read it out loud, because the ebb and flow of our voice is so relaxing to a dog. They really pick up on these things. And you know, when you think about music, like we see during bonfire season, how Classic FM have special radio stations for our dogs, don't they? Just to help relax our dogs. I mean, if you put on heavy metal, you feel a bit, don't you? But if you put on some Mozart or something like folk music, whatever you like, that's quite relaxing, you'll notice how that's really, really relaxing for you and your dog, and obviously sharing that time together. What we doing? How are we doing for time?
Another 10 minutes.
Okay. Right, I'll summarise.
Because we're not going to have a long
No.
Q&A session, because we're doing it in between.
Yeah, I wanted to obviously talk about, the importance of feeding with our dogs as well. I think you touched on it before, but the simple changes that we can do as well when we're feeding our dogs, like scatter feeding. I'm really, really into scatter feeding because it's a much more natural way of them hunting out their food. Great if you feed kibble. I feed a lot of raw or mixed as well, but you can do it in little ramekins and put it around the garden, and it's a much more natural way for them to hunt out their food. And so I'll do it like...
If you do that, do you let one dog out of the
Yes, I
house?
do. Of course, yeah. Well, 2 of mine are okay eating together. They're both not food orientated, and, you know, they're not slow. She'd have to go out on her own.
Or she'd have it all.
Yeah, she'd have it all, and if anyone came near a bowl, she'd also, yeah. She makes a lot of noise. She wouldn't growl, but yeah, there's an awful lot of noise going on.
Thank you. Would you scatter their food onto one of those little rug things?
Yeah.
So that works as well?
Absolutely. So I have loads of puzzle toys and things at home.
Right.
So obviously this is a snuffle mat. I've got Kongs. I've got lick mats. I don't know if you've ever seen lick mats.
I have, but that's another thing I thought, I don't know, does this actually work?
Yeah.
So I haven't got one yet, but
No.
if I'm happy to...
They're great to have in your home.
Right.
But also, you know, if your dog's nervous of the bath, for instance, you can just slap them on the side of the bath and it gives them something to do while you're bathing them.
Right.
You know, they do have quite a lot of purposes, and especially if your dog's funny about you leaving the house, it's really important to have something there to distract them with, just to redirect that focus so they're not so focused on. So, if that becomes your routine, giving them a Kong or a lick mat or a puzzle or something when you leave, they start to slowly, through time, reassociate you leaving with, okay, great, so where's my treat? So I've picked up from Cruff some amazing puzzle toys. They're wood and handmade, and they've all got these like flips, and they have to bang it with the foot, and then the top drawer opens, and slideys, and my dogs have got loads of those. I normally bring them with me, but because I was just travelling with a handbag, I thought. Yes, I know. That poor cow. So there's so many different ways that you can feed your dog rather than just shoving kibble in a bowl. That's a very unnatural way of feeding. And I absolutely love it. So I still measure out whatever their food is. And also, like we were talking about feeding as well, I don't know how many people are aware of how much food directly correlates with behaviour as well. So if you feed a really poor quality diet, you often normally see a fuzzy mind, or, not only is it bad for their health, but obviously not great for their minds as well. It can really cloud a dog's mind. Now, people think, some of these foods can get very expensive, but it's amazing when you're on such a high quality diet how little you actually need to feed your dog. I always feel like it's poverty portions when I feed my dogs, because I think it's so little. How can that sustain life? But yeah, it's so important. And I think as well, probably my last take home is one thing that I noticed with feeding as well is our epidemic in overweight dogs. It's a real problem, and I think that the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons have said now that we're one of the nations with the fattest dogs. And because we're responsible for it, I just think it's so important, because it's going to be so detrimental to their health long term. Not only is it going to cost you more in vet's bills, it's going to be so bad for their joints. Because
it's their joints that suffer.
Because nearly all dogs, when they get old, will need a glucosamine supplement. I give my dogs glucosamine, and I notice what a difference it actually makes, and it just keeps them going. But obviously, weight is going to be a massive contributor to poor joint health and obviously overall health, really, poor heart health. So save yourself money as well by, trying to watch your dog's portions, especially like she's old now, she's spayed, but you can see she's very trim. I'm quite on it with making sure my dogs are trim.
Despite her best efforts.
Despite her best efforts as well, yeah. I was laughing with you earlier because she's an absolute miracle where she's like, I can't get on the sofa. And then my kids will leave their dinner on the table, go upstairs, and then I'll come back down and she's stood in the middle of my dining room table. I'm thinking, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
It's amazing what dogs can do when they really want something to eat, isn't it? Fish fingers, yum yum. So I think we've probably run out of time, haven't we?
Well, no, you can...
Yeah.
The question you mentioned about you give a supplement.
Yeah.
We've got a Labrador who, she's nearly 7. So I was going to ask if you've got any, what's your thoughts on vitamins and, things like that? Because obviously their joints get, the older they get, they can
There's
affect
2
them.
that I really recommend. So that's an Omega fish oil. Really great for the brain health, the skin, the coat, overall health, obviously, and joint health. And then I use U-Move, but there's loads of different glucosamine. The U-Move Plus is actually meant to be really, really good. But I've always put my oldies on U-Move, and it's incredible, the difference. I recommend it to anybody as well.
Put mine on U-Move from about 6.
Yeah, so I would do it now. I would say the same.
Yeah, but the other thing that I've had that has been really helpful for my collie from about 10 or 11 is a thing called Activate.
Is it like a probiotic?
It's probiotic and all sorts of things that really enhances their brain function, and it has slowed his dementia. It hasn't stopped it, but it's slowed it.
Yeah, there's a big movement towards giving dogs probiotics now, isn't there?
Lots of vets. Every vet that I encounter, when I say, he's got dementia, have you tried Activate? They all say it. So it is really good.
Yeah, and if I've got a dog with a coat, and you're noticing, because the first thing that will go on a dog as it gets older is the quality of their coat. Yeah. So they'll start to obviously thin out. You'll notice they'll start going bald over their rump and different areas like that, because obviously the body's busy doing other things. It's not thinking about the hair anymore. So if this is something, the skin's getting a bit dry and scurfy, you notice they're itching, scratching, maybe biting the paws a little bit more, you can give them a kelp or a seaweed. That's really, really great. Dorwest herbs have got a great selection.
Dorwest are brilliant.
They are really good.
They are really, really good.
They have a keeper's mix as well, which is a great overall one.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
Dorwest.
Dorwest. They're in Dorchester, in Dorset, and if DOR West. Yeah. They're in Dorchester, so it's.
But you can actually email them and just
and
talk to them about what your concerns are, and it's all natural, holistic.
And my collie, because he's very nervy, has had their what's it called?
Valerian compound.
Yeah, valerian compound.
Which they hate the taste of, don't they?
Yes, but he has it in little pills.
Yeah.
And he has 4 of those a day, and it just keeps him on the level.
And valerian compound is also one of my retired show dogs. She never used to like the travelling element. She was okay, it wasn't, a huge issue, but, I could tell that she would get slightly stressed about the travel. And so I'd give her valerian, and she was just chill, sleep.
Yeah.
It's like a doobie for a dog. Yeah, so what are we on now time-wise? 10 minutes?
Yep, 5 more.
5 minutes.
5 more.
Does anyone have any questions? And then I'll see how much time.
You've got a question.
Yes. Poke.
I just personally had a really bad experience a lot of years ago mixing sizes of dogs in a household when my Labrador killed one of my Shih Tzus when I was out during the day. I think they'd fought over a toy. And I just wondered what your general recommendation is on that sort of thing.
Well, I've had Dobermans and miniature poodles. No, but I think obviously there was some underlying issues going on that you'd have to sort of read before. I've always had sort of mix of big and small dogs. That's a really unfortunate thing. I have actually heard of a girl that I know who's a groomer. I think maybe 5 years ago, her standard poodle killed their Lakeland Terrier. But apparently the Lakeland Terrier had been at this dog for months and months and months and months and months. And I think that obviously the dog was just like,
enough.
That is it. Yeah.
The dog being brought as an adult by my husband, and we didn't really know it's
well, that's.
But we didn't know why it had been rehomed.
Yeah, that's really it's just one of those really horrendous, sad situations. Yeah, generally I find that when you integrate dogs together, my dogs, 99%, unless one of my bitches is in season, 99% of the time it's a harmonious house.
Yeah.
I don't have much squabbling.
I have got friends who have had to give one away because they just couldn't get on.
They're just not gelling.
Yeah.
Just leading on from that question, what's your take on kennels? Because the kennels that I'm beginning to introduce my cotton Tertulia to, they don't allow the dog to go out in a little group. So they let them out one at a time.
So like one kennel at a time.
Yes,
so your dogs are together.
So they'll open her kennel. She can have the run of the lawn, which is enclosed. And that sort of troubles me because she's she loves company and she loves other dogs. And I'm thinking, if I leave her there I've only left her one night so far and I'm working up. If I leave her there for a whole week and she doesn't have any interaction.
She's quite isolated.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, But I spoke to the kennel owner and he said, well, I've seen dogs in groups and I've seen things turn nasty. So they don't do that. And they don't even take them out for a walk.
The problem with kennels is they don't have the time. When you're paying for they don't. And they often when you've got a kennel, it's not like a day, where you're taking your dog to because you can get home sitters. There's one that's really good near me around Fewston Reservoir, and she lives on the reservoir.
And she takes really good near me.
Yeah, and she takes them in the house. And she'll walk them and she'll do trials, like a few trials just to settle the dogs in first. But she's on hand there constantly to read their behaviour and manage, obviously. And then obviously she has separate rooms just in case dogs need to be separated. But the kennels don't operate like that. They're very much, this is, luckily, thank goodness, because I've got the most amazing mum, I've never had to kennel my dogs. But it's something that I lie, years and years ago when I was maybe 19, I kennelled a dog and they had to ring me on holiday to say, we cannot get this dog to eat. So I had to arrange, obviously, someone to pick her up and pull her out of the kennels because they said, we've tried, she won't eat your food, she won't eat this food. They tried everything to try to get her to eat, but she just starved herself. And when I picked her up, she didn't have a bark for about 2 weeks because she'd barked herself hoarse. Yeah, so that was it. I was like, never again.
I did one night once and both dogs couldn't bark. But a couple of weeks afterwards, I thought, not doing this.
When I still had my own rescue dog, I used holidays for dogs, and so she was either one or with one other dog already in the house.
Yeah.
She got excellent care.
Yeah. When I've been away with my...
There's other services, I think.
When I've been away with my mum as well, I've had somebody actually come into my house as well.
Right, one last one.
Have you got time?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. It was just about, it's about their play with other dogs. So I've got a 1-year-old puppy and she loves other dogs. She loves all of them.
That's good.
And she's got one special friend that we see most days, and they play together every morning off the lead. They're charging about and scrapping and generally having a good time. I do slightly worry that they're a little bit over boisterous with each other, and I want to know when it's okay to be scrapping with Poppy because that's how they interact. But she can't take that and expect every dog to want to be kind of bopped around the head all the time. So I just wondered about how you train them to interact nicely with each other.
It's so tricky when they're in a free environment like that as well. So as long as they're sort of similarly matched in size.
Oh no, they're completely different in size.
Oh, are they?
Probably similar in weight, to be honest.
Oh, okay, yeah, because you just have to be careful with a little dog a big dog interacting with a little dog like that. Obviously, if they're being too boisterous, then obviously that's somewhere where I'd intervene. A lot of the time with that age, it's the best way of them learning, obviously, is through playing and learning from other dogs, because she might get that dog that's going to tell her off, and that's going to make her think, oh, okay. You mean I don't. Normally, it depends on obviously the mother. Like most of the dogs that I've ever had litters from before, the mums are quite strict with the puppies, and that actually has made the dogs really quite respectful and and quite good at approaching. But not all mother dogs are like that, so they're not learning that. So yeah, it's quite hard to teach them that, especially when they're off the lead. But it's just about managing the safety of the situation, I think, at the time, and make sure she's interacting with dogs that are exactly the same size as her. Yeah, and keep it calm. I mean, if you think you're getting, it's getting too much, just try and split them up and, do some calm activities with them instead.
Enough is a good word that you can teach dogs.
Yeah, and my other thing is look at me as well.
Yeah,
I always
look at
teach
me.
my dog direct
Yeah.
eye contact. It's super easy to do. Treat to the side of your face and just teach them all the time, look at me. It's great for redirecting your dogs when you're out on a walk or you're just trying to take the focus off something, because often that's all it needs is that, when they get fixated on it, it just needs something to snap that focus, and then it'll just, change the situation. Look at me.
Yeah. The other thing that I do, particularly with young dogs when I get them, is because one of the ways in which their mothers will warn them that they're overstepping the mark is a low grumble, in the throat grumble. I do that. And that does.
Jane the dog.
Yeah,
Jane the Great Dane.
that does work, but only on a young dog. It won't work on an older dog.
Sometimes they puppies, they're so like, boo, that they're just. They often, they can't hear it, can they? So it just takes you literally stepping in to calm down the situation.
Yeah.
But often dog play seems a lot more than it is. It can be quite vocal and bitey, but...
Sometimes you need to just check in with the owners and say, my dog's a bit boisterous. Is he?
Yeah, you okay? Yeah, and they're like, they're both boisterous too, and maybe he's met his friend for life.
They never hurt each other.
No, well then that sounds fine. Yeah.
But my advice is a low grumble for young dogs and vice chancellors. It works on them. We must stop, sadly. I'm sure this could go on all afternoon. It's been absolutely great, but I expect the Festival of Ideas, of which there is much more that you can come to, do pick up a programme. They'll need the room soon. So a huge thank you to Verity for a really lovely afternoon. And I think a big thank you from both of us and Lily to you for being such a great audience.
Especially coming on such a gorgeous day as well, and I'm sure you'd rather be at a barbecue.
And the book is downstairs on the Lane Fox stand.
Yes.
And you're going to go down
I'll sign some. Yeah,
some?
absolutely.
Great.
I'd be absolutely delighted if you'd buy it. I'm sure you'll love that.
Lovely. Okay. Thank you very much indeed.
Me and Lily will go down.